Welcome back. I hope all is well. Today we're going to talk about how you know if you're ready for a group practice or not. This is a question I see people asking all the time. Hey, I have this many clients. Am I ready to start a group? Or, hey, I really want to start a group practice, but I don't know if I'm ready. And there's really no clear formula for this. Everyone is ready at a different time, and perhaps you might never feel ready and you just need to take the jump. However, that being said, I want to share with you 5 signs that you may be ready to start a group practice. But before we do, if you haven't done so already, please do go ahead and subscribe down below. Hit the thumbs up button on this video, but only if you want to. There is no pressure. So let's just jump right in. The first sign that you might be ready to start a group practice is that you actually want to start a group practice. Now this might sound kind of weird because don't you want to start a group practice? That's why you're watching this video. But I don't just mean kind of the fantastical thoughts about a group practice. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to be able to hire this many therapists and I'll be able to supervise and it's going to grow and I'm going to help a lot of people. I mean the actual day-to-day thoughts about a group practice. You have to do all the administration. You have to manage time off. You have to manage not only client schedules, but therapist schedules and therapist and client schedules together. You have to do all sorts of administrative stuff that perhaps you didn't do before. You have to think about malpractice insurance. You have to think about supervision perhaps. You have to think about getting a bigger office space if you practice in person. You have to think about day-to-day things that are not all that glamorous. You have to think about perhaps being on call for all the therapists. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into a group practice, and this is not often thought through. Oftentimes we're thinking about like the great things about group practices, like I mentioned before, helping a whole bunch of people, growing in your community. And those are all wonderful and all true. But you have to think about, do you really want a group practice? Do you want to have to put in, because you're going to put in extra hours. This is not just a money-making machine. And in fact, having a group practice and owning a group practice is a lot of work. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So if you really want that and you've thought through that, you might be ready to start a group practice. So number 2 is a more practical concern, and this is whether or not you have the appropriate funds to start a group practice. Now, like I mentioned in my solo private practice video, a therapy practice doesn't have that much overhead. I mean, it's not like opening a restaurant where you need to hire a ton of staff right off the bat. You need to have all sorts of equipment before you even open the doors to people. It's not like that at all. However, it is much more expensive and costly than having a solo practice. Just for example, here are a few things you have to pay for when starting a group practice. You need to increase your EHR capacity, meaning you need to have more clients able to use your EHR. This is usually pretty costly. You need to have accounting software. You need to pay for the hiring process if you're choosing to do something like Indeed or LinkedIn and advertise the job. You also need to pay for workers' compensation. And this is just a few. Not to mention, if you have an office space and you see people in person, you're going to need to increase that space or find a way to divide the time up. And increasing space is always costly. So you do need to think about whether or not you have the appropriate funds to start a group practice. But once again, there's no black and white answer for this. It's unique to the provider opening the group practice. And the second part is to know that you will not be making money back as quickly as you did in your solo private practice because there's a lot more upfront costs. It takes much longer to make those costs back. Not to mention when you hire therapists, they don't just start off with a full caseload. It takes time to build up that caseload. And as that caseload is being built, you're still paying for all those upfront costs. So again, you don't make money back as quickly as you do in solo practice. So you need to be ready for that. And a third sign that you might be ready to start a group practice is that you've started to master your own workflows and develop systems and processes for your practice by yourself. What do I mean by that? Do you have a system for scheduling clients? Do you have a system for billing? Do you have a system for when you're not available? Do you have policies and procedures in place? Are you able to teach another therapist your systems so that they can then also see clients with the same workflows? But you need to have systems and workflows in the first place. And I know a lot of us get really comfortable in solo private practice. We develop routines, systems, and workflows. We actually don't think through what it would be like to teach someone this workflow. However, when you start a group practice, that's exactly what you need to do. So perhaps write down your workflow. Make a chart. How would you teach someone your workflow for whatever it is that you're doing? How would you teach someone to onboard a new client? So if you have systems and workflows in place and you're able to teach those systems and workflows, you might be ready to start a group practice. And number 4, and this is one that people talk about all the time, they want to know how many clients do I need to have in order to start a group practice. It doesn't really matter. You can have 1 client, 2 clients, 10 clients, 30 clients. It really is up to you. However, I would say that generally when you start to turn clients away, meaning you are full, you filled yourself to your own capacity, well then perhaps you can start thinking about expanding to another therapist. It wouldn't be the wisest option to have 1 client on your own and then hire a therapist, because now you're both building up at the same time. That wouldn't really make much sense, but it is doable. However, what I see is that most therapists start considering group practice after they've reached their own limits. And again, limits are your own. They're unique to everyone. And that's how I started. Once my caseload got to a point that it was full, I then decided I wanted to expand. And so I hired other therapists. So what does that allow me to do? Well, that allows me to focus my efforts on filling their caseloads. Mine is already full. So again, no formula for this. You can really do it whenever you want. However, most people are doing this once they've filled up their own caseload. And then the last sign that you might be ready to start a group practice is that you are ready for a challenge. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, starting a group practice is not a cakewalk. It is actually a lot of work. And it's not just practical work, but you need to learn a lot of new things, new softwares, new systems. You need to learn how to hire employees. You need to learn about labor laws. You need to learn about human resources. You need to learn so much stuff. Now, I will say it is so rewarding to learn all of these things. You really do become much more diverse in your skill set. It is totally rewarding. However, there's a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, and a lot of challenges that get thrown your way. There are tons of moments where you feel like you want to throw in the towel, but if you push through, it is quite rewarding. And like I mentioned, a lot of people have the fantastical thoughts about group practice, how good it is, how you can expand, and all those are true and wonderful. But we don't take into account that having a group practice, starting a group practice, and running a group practice is a lot of work, and it comes with a lot of challenges. I cannot stress that enough. It is a challenge. So if you are ready for a challenge, then perhaps you're ready to start a group practice. So that is it for today's video. Just 5 signs that you may be ready for a group practice. And again, it's unique to everyone. Your time is your time. No one can tell you if it's right or wrong. However, there are effective and ineffective times to do things. So maybe these signs will help you out. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Hopefully you learned something. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you soon.